What's up, lore masters? Before I get into the analysis, let me address some criticisms or various points that are going to come up, so I'll be slightly off topic. Yes, I know that currency existed in Star Trek Enterprise, Discovery, and into the original series. Additionally, from the original series into the original series movies, real currency is discussed. But I do want to counter that after the original series era, at some point, fiat money as we know it now would become obsolete, at least within a lot of the Federation. To address it, the observed inferences of a fiat currency in the Next Generation in Deep Space Nine can generally be explained as Starfleet reaching the outer edges of their border and beyond their own space. At that point, they would have to deal with races that still barter in such quote-unquote archaic methods. This would include Farpoint Station as well as Deep Space Nine, and additionally, it is not out of the realm of possibility to think that some of these non-Federation species would also be on Federation starbases, such as those we see in Measure of a Man. It would make sense, and I have always held, that Starfleet keeps Latinum reserves on standby to deal with other species, as well as to ensure that the officers on extended duty can eat when not in the confines of Starfleet borders. Lastly, it seems that there is still trade that does occur, especially the further you get away from the core member planets of the Federation. While this could be explained away by cultural contamination of species that use this method to rely on their existence or from outside pressures, there's also the theory that Federation space somewhat works like what we see in Star Wars and Firefly. The innermost parts of the Federation, specifically the core members that I've mentioned and surrounding planets, have plenty. It's paradise. The further you get away from the inner sphere, the more and more paradise fades away. This would mean that at the outer edges of the Federation territory, they have yet to enjoy full-on Eden. This can be confusing since we know that replicators go out to the far edges, including Deep Space Nine, the Romulan-Klingon borders, as well as the demilitarized zone on the Cardassian border. So why all want hasn't been removed from those areas doesn't make sense. Though, during the age of the Next Generation, we observe that replicators are limited in some of the things that they can make. Now, Voyager does seem to say to hell with that in a lot of respects, but that's a story for another time. So it's possible during TNG and DS9 that items that can't be replicated are the traded resources. I am also aware that money resurfaces in Star Trek Picard, and I will get into that at some point, but for now, we aren't going to be delving into the reintroduction of scarcity just yet. So we know that during the Next Generation and into both Deep Space Nine and Voyager, that Starfleet didn't utilize nor really have scarcity. That, for the Terrans at least, but most likely all Federation species, they quote-unquote strived to become more than the sum of their parts. So what kind of economy existed? Well, I do think that there was some form of currency that was there in both time and energy. The value of when something can be done or made, as well as the value of the amount of power required to do it, would have a high utility. We see a microcosm of this in rationing of holodeck time. However, I think the largest form of currency is prestige, rank, and accomplishment. It fits within the manifesto we constantly see Picard tout and is reinforced within TNG, DS9, and Voyager. Consistently, we see people wanting to strive to be greater and the repercussions if they aren't. This includes Barclay, Wesley, Eddington, and others. In DS9 and Voyager, people are shunned and indeed even hunted down if they do not meet the standards. Examples of this include if someone doesn't want to be greater than who they are, like in Voyager's learning curve, or officers who turn their back on Starfleet and the Federation, like those who join the Maquis. This has lent more credibility when we consider the power wielded by Starfleet officers. Captains like Picard and Sisko have an immense amount of power and sway. They are even able to counter admirals and get away with it. Hell, Sisko used biogenic weapons on an entire populace for one man and was never put in jail. Quite simply, if you are able to distinguish yourself and bring great pride to Mother Federation, then you are given extreme praise, power, and influence. I know I said I wouldn't get into it, but arguably we see the death of this type of currency when the Admiral threatens to resign in Star Trek Picard, and now in this society where money exists, they tell him to sod off. They don't care. When you consider the entire works of Trek, it can be easy to cherry-pick isolated events in an attempt to explain the entire universe as being one way or the other. Unfortunately, Trek will be Trek, and Trek is notoriously contradictory. So while I think this is the most reasonable explanation and breakdown, I'm sure there are counter-arguments. But what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded. Hey guys, thanks so much for staying to the end of the video. I'm reaching out to you because I need your help. Unfortunately, at this time of year, and especially with the pandemic, we are seeing a hit to advertiser revenue. If you like the fact that I get out videos on a near constant basis and am interactive with the audience, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/lorereloaded. If you don't like Patreon, consider becoming a member by clicking on the button below. All of it helps out. If at least 1% of those who watch my video on a monthly basis gave $1, I'd be set. I'd never have to worry about YouTube advertising again. I appreciate your consideration, and I'll see you next time.